This is the first of the Fiducia recorded webinars. We'll be looking at how DLT technology can solve some of the challenges of transparency in the programmatic supply chain. Today's discussion is with Jules Kendrick, MD, UK and Europe at TAG, the Trustworthy and Accountability Group. Jules has worked in the industry for 20 years with senior roles at Amazon, IDG and Business Insider. She was recently made MD after the merger between JITwebs and TAG. Welcome, Jules.
Thank you.
So before we get into the technology, the industry under JITwebs and TAG has done a lot of work to address the challenges of transparency in the supply chain. Can you give me an overview of what has been done to date?
Sure. So I think we all know that digital advertising has been a fast growth market since its inception over 25 years ago. And transparency in digital advertising supply chain is critical to its sustainable future. I think we should be really proud of all the work that's already been done by our industry to build trust and transparency, both by all of our industry bodies, IPA, ISBA, AOP and the IAB and its gold standard, and also not to mention all the work done by IAB Tech Lab, the ASA, Coalition for Better Ads, TCS, the Conscious Advertising Network, and of course, all the technology and processes that individual companies across the supply chain implement. And then, of course, there's the work that both TAG and JITwebs have been doing with the industry, building our highly respected brand safety and fraud standards. The merger of TAG and JITwebs, which went live as of the 1st of this month, makes it easier for every company in the supply chain to adopt the high standards necessary to protect themselves and their customers across the globe. We already have over 110 companies signed up to the newly launched brand safety certification program, and over 30 of those are already applying that standard globally. But having said all that, there is still work to be done, and everyone is very aware of that. In fact, the recent PwC study commissioned by ISBA and AOP really highlighted the complexity of the programmatic supply chain and the need for industry consistency around data sharing and formatting. And we're all aware of the growing pressure from regulators, governments to prove the compliance and accountability of digital advertising.
Okay. As you say, that there's work to be done, but so why TAG involved, and given the success, why is there a DLT network being set up?
So good question. I mean, originally it was JITwebs that ran the recent 12-month pilot jointly with its related trade associations, ISBA, IPA, IB UK and AOP, and also a number of major industry players to evaluate the benefits of an industry consortium network using DLT distributed ledger technology as an always-on solution. And much like JITwebs, TAG's remit is to address the trust and transparency challenges the industry is facing. And that includes assessing how new technologies can help the industry continue to self-regulate through standards and certifications of best practices, and to ensure that they're actually enforced at all times, consistently, and by all industry participants across the supply chain. And while DLT is still in its early stages, TAG really believes this pilot not only highlights the potential of this type of technology, but also the importance of working with stakeholders across the industry to evaluate and find consensus on common standards. So to this end, TAG has agreed to take on the work that JITwebs has been doing for the past year. And really the benefits of an industry consortium network using DLT is that it is permissioned. In other words, you need to get permission from the governing entity to become a participant on that network under the condition that you comply with the network principles at all times. So these principles, which are set by the governing entity in the industry, can include minimum requirements related to industry standards, such as having to have TAG's brand safety certification or certified against fraud, or adherence to a specific regulation, a law, anything like that. But and more importantly, or not more importantly, but as important, is that the actual proof that your business is a legal entity with a network ID, and that there's a requirement that you will provide a data feed in some form in given time intervals. So the success of the network really depends on adoption. That's really key, and I can't really emphasize that enough. As a rule, the more companies that participate on the network, the more value it will drive to participants in reducing business risks, increasing value, driving revenues, and reducing operating costs where relevant.
Yeah, interesting. So what are the core goals and objectives of the initiative?
So really the core goal of the initiative is to further help digital advertising to continue building trust in our industry, which is obviously in line with TAG's mission. So we also see, digital advertising is a technology-driven industry, and it requires technology to monitor its supply chain and to consistently enforce industry standards, certifications, regulations. And DLT could be that always-on industry solution that not only drives accountability over what we call live compliance, which is the validation of the compliance of impressions with measurable requirements, which is defined by contract, a standard, or by law. So, for example, adhering to TAG standards. But it can also DLT can also provide a number of business benefits to participants through live reconciliation, which is the automated near real-time reconciliation of impressions across the supply chain. But ultimately, the goal is, if we can show the majority of the industry that participation in the initiative to create a network effect will benefit both, we'll have achieved our goal.
Okay. So a lot's been learned, and I understand this has been sort of achieved through the launch of a pilot. Could you give a bit of an overview of that pilot and what's been achieved so far?
I can try. So the pilot has really helped demonstrate what DLT could offer in three key areas, what it could offer the industry in three key areas. So the first is supply chain transparency. So the pilot allowed us to successfully validate, despite log level data availability and inconsistency issues, but to validate the use of a DLT platform as a unified data and reporting layer for the industry. The DLT harmonizes impression log level data to a common format, automates data access management, ensures data immutability, security, and privacy, and streamlines the access to supply chain reconciled log level data via a single API. It's also important to mention that that data recorded in the ledger is only getting access on a need-to-know basis via encryption keys, which is under the control of the data provider. So the second area was supply chain optimization. The pilot allowed us to use shared truth, which is basically saying, what I see is what you see, to validate the execution of campaigns against a set of metrics reconciled along multiple vendors, including discrepancies, measurability, viewability, brand safety, and fraud prevention metrics. So the focus of the pilot was more on the validation and reconciliation of impressions against qualitative and quantitative metrics, and less on the financial values. For DLT reconciled impressions, 34% were categorized as non-qualified and or non-viewable. And then the final of the three areas was operational efficiencies. The DLT platform successfully tested how smart contracts can automate business processes between buyers and sellers, providing significant operational efficiencies. So we carried out some research with agencies, which indicated that programmatic teams spend up to 60% of their time downloading, formatting, and reconciling data, compared with just 20% analyzing it. So 59% of respondents thought campaign reporting and reconciliation would really benefit most from automation. So those kind of just to sort of recap on that, so there's quite a lot of information there, but essentially three key areas, which is supply chain transparency, supply chain optimization, and operational efficiency.
Wow, so clearly a lot's been achieved. When can we expect to see the launch of the full project, and how can people get involved?
So we feel that we need to further evaluate the opportunities and the challenges facing a DLT industry consortium network. So TAG is actually going to be launching an industry consultation in September to share detailed information about the initiative and the pilot results, and give stakeholders across the industry the opportunity to give their input to determine how best to move forward. It's really important, and I'm really keen for the whole industry to really get involved with this, as this could really change the way we operate as an industry. So essentially, I'd ask anyone who's interested to find out more to be part of the consultation. And the way to do that really is either there'll be information below this video, which will enable you either to say you'd like to find out more, or to contact Adrian Lacey, who is TAG's Director of Policy and Programmes based in the UK. And he can supply further details, and his email address will be available as well below.
Amazing. Well, it's a really exciting time. Thank you so much for your time, Jules.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure.